Would you lead us in our
I
invocation?
will. Father, we thank you for this day, God. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve our community. And I pray, God, that you give us wisdom as we do so. And Lord, that you just bless each and every one that's here tonight. We're thankful for our community, God, and for what you do in it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Samantha, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I said my own prayer, Mary.
We were praying you were almost here, Tom.
More of an oath.
Actually.
Now we can begin.
So, has everyone figured out how to turn on your microphones?
I think we're all on.
Don't tap them, speak into me.
Sorry.
Don't do that.
So we do have it figured out? Everyone? Okay. So we'll get started with our roll call. Misty Cottle.
Here.
Jeff Upton.
Here.
Jan Throgmorton.
Here.
John Collins.
Here.
Kira Hungate. Don Rollins.
Here.
Joe Tower.
Here.
Dina McKnight. Will be running late. Our city attorney and city clerk are both present. So our first item is the adoption of our agenda. I do have a couple amendments that we need to make to that. I have 4 change orders, so we'll put that under new business number 6. And then budget adjustment, we'll make that item 7. Do we have any questions, concerns, or any other thoughts on the agenda? Do we have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the agenda with the amendments. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is the approval of our meeting minutes from our January 14th meeting. Do we have any changes or adjustments to those?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. So the next item on our agenda is our public forum. Before we get into that, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out, checking out our new court facilities. I hope everyone had a chance to get here early and walk through and see all the improvements that have been made. Definitely a vast improvement from where we were as far as council meetings and as far as holding court. This is nice. It really is. So thank you guys for coming out. With that, we'll go ahead and move into our public forum. In our public forum, we try to limit you to 2 minutes per speaker, but anyone that wants to address the council for questions, concerns, comments, feel free to. And just know that the council won't take any action on anything that's brought before the council during the public forum, but we would like to hear from you. So with that being said, would anyone like to address the council? Sandy, come on. So this is Sandy Formica, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about some work that she and her group are looking to do on some city property, the West Fork of the White River. And I will let her, she's far better qualified to explain what they do than I am. So please tell us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, West Fork City Council, and congratulations on your new facility. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm the Executive Director of the Watershed Conservation Resource Center, and we have a project with 14 different partners, including the NRCS, Beaver Water District, Beaver Watershed Alliance. I believe West Fork is listed as a partner. I'm not exactly sure about that, but there's several partners in the area, and basically we're looking to restore several large sections of river on the West Fork of the White River, And as you guys know, it's been plagued with instability and stream bank erosion for more than a decade now. And basically, one of the sites that we've selected for the funding is downstream of the Dye Creek Bridge. And that particular site, through assessment work that we've conducted over the years, contributes about 25% of the sediment from stream bank erosion in the entire watershed. It's a site we've been looking to restore for a long time, and finally through this grant that we currently have with the NRCF, there's enough funding to actually tackle that giant site, which is about a mile long, and there's 6 landowners, and you guys are one of the 6 landowners. And so in order for us to spend the money at the site, we have to have an access agreement, and that is on the agenda. So later, so I think, do they have a copy of the agreement?
Yes, I believe everyone has a copy of it.
So I think you guys have a copy of it, but basically for us to move forward, all 6 landowners have to sign an access agreement. And what else would you guys like to know about it?
So Sandy was here. We do have that on our agenda tonight to vote on. And so you guys are, you did some work down at Rock Creek.
Yes, we've done, so we have a major project at the Fayetteville Municipal Airport. Are any of you familiar with that project? And it's been extraordinarily successful. It's been in place at least 5 years, maybe 6 years now, and it's to protect the airport property and private landowners' property during that time. And we've prevented, I don't know, probably at least 100 feet of erosion from occurring through that site. So the site that we're looking at here, at one time, the 2004 flood, I think one of the landowners lost over 100 feet just in that one catastrophic event. So it's important work to be done. We recently did a small stream bank restoration on Rock Creek, and we have projects all over Northwest Arkansas. They're big. We do big river projects, we do small river projects. We're a nonprofit 501c3. I think I've been before the city council several times over the past 10 years. And we're to the point where we can finally do something. So it's a multi-million-dollar project, and it hasn't been easy to bring in the funding to do it.
When do you want to start? I mean, when are you guys looking at starting it?
We probably wouldn't start construction till next year, but we've already started the design, and at least we've collected data and we've initiated the design. So we've already collected most of the environmental data that we need to do the work. And so one thing it would add to is, there's been some ideas tossed around of having a water trail along the West Fork of the Water River, for several miles through Greenland and also through Fayetteville. And so this would hopefully be the beginning of that. It's kind of how I see it, once it's restored.
What type of stabilization work is you envision in the design?
And I could pass this around too. It's got some information on the kind of sediment. I'm going to answer your question, I promise. The kind of sediment and nutrient reduction from these projects, and then it's also got some pictures, before and after pictures in it. So let me start with you. So basically, we take a natural channel design approach to our work, and what we do is we look at the natural tendencies of the river and the climate and the environment that it's in. And then our design is based on creating a channel and riparian area that is more friendly to the kinds of flows that are going to come through and the kind of type of flooding. Once we construct these projects, we take an extra step and we revegetate with all native vegetation, and then we maintain them literally for years to get them established. The problem didn't happen overnight, and it literally takes years to get the projects established. most people think the project is the construction, but that's really a short time period relative to how long it takes to do the design, to do the data collection design, get all the permitings it requires for a core permit, floodplain permit, and more. And so that in itself takes a few years. Construction for this site is so large, it'll be 6 to 8 months. Most of our projects are 4 to 8 weeks for construction, but this one is very large. And then we maintain our sites for at least 5 years, but we recommend at least 10 years. So we'll be doing maintenance work out there until they get established.
Any other questions for Sandy? No? Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the council? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and close our public forum. The next item on our agenda is our business reports. I'm going to start with Planning Commissioner Walter Harnish.
Good evening, Council. Actually, I have a couple of things to report this time around. We've finally got our proposal zoning ordinance from regional planning. So we'll be tearing into that and accompanying it with a future land use map and a master street plan too. So that'll go along with that. And also, Mr. Mark Wilhite is here and he would like to be our 7th commissioner, and the Planning Commission has recommended him. And hopefully you guys place him.
So we can go ahead and take that up now, if everyone's okay with that.
Making a motion.
I'll second.
Is that a motion and a second to approve, Mr. Wilhite?
Yes, it is.
Have you guys met Mr. Wilhite?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, we know him.
All right, so we have a motion and second to approve Mark Wilhite as a planning commissioner. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Mark, thank you for volunteering to do that, sir.
Sir.
It does, they're just all zeros.
Any other questions for me?
Any questions for Walter?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you much.
Next is our library report. Shannon Reed.
Hello. Let's see, our new library book drop that will be available 24/7 should be arriving this Thursday. Lots of patrons have asked about it, so I would just love to say that here. We do have a temporary book drop, so that will be removed whenever our new awesome book drop arrives this week. We are in the beginning phase of planning our children's summer program. The theme is Imagine Your Story. So we imagined our story, and we will feature fantasy, fairy, and mythological titles. We have a ton of fun ideas, including escape room challenges and Quidditch techniques, and that's for the Harry Potter fans. So stay tuned as we announce dates and more activities. We plan to do ages and separate the ages into 0 to 6, 6 to 12, and 13 to 18 for each week. And the escape room challenges will be for the entire family to participate together. And we are preparing for tax season. I'm not sure if you all know, but we have all our numbers really rise with the tax season, and that's what we learned from last year, as well as our computer usage. We noticed our highest computer usage was April of last year, and January has almost doubled that in number. So we're starting to see patrons working on their taxes. We know over the next few months this number will grow, so we're not tax experts, but we are always happy to help navigate and download forms, and we talk to the IRS to try and work best together so we can help everybody get their taxes done this year. So that is what we will be busy doing.
Any questions for Shannon? No? Thank you, Shannon. Next, our court report with Tracy Redford. So I like the new look.
Okay. I guess I have a whole lot to report. Our trials we had 260 trials in the month of January, 394 arraignments, and let's see, on the tickets, we were up 21 citations from last month and up 17 from last year. That's about it. That's
Any questions about the new look of the report?
Looks good.
easier to read.
It is easier to read.
That's what I was going for, so. If you guys have anything you if you're curious about anything, if you want me to add things that you don't see, let me know, and I'll see if I can come up with them.
And so, on the trials, you have them broke down, city, county, state. So on the city trials, is that the number that the city prosecutor is involved with? Am I correct in that?
That was what was on the schedule, and if you go down the road, you can see that he convicted 35, he dismissed 15, 33 cases were continued, and then we had 16 people that failed to appear. Okay? City trials is what our city prosecutor does. Okay?
And the reason I bring that up is that number has risen quite a lot in the past couple of years. That's something we need to be aware of.
We currently have him, when they reschedule a case right now, we are scheduling for July the 2nd. I mean, we are way out there because his, like 99, he's got 100 cases to deal with. So we're trying to keep it down just a little bit, like around 75 or something, if we can. But we're scheduling all the way out to July because his caseload is so heavy.
And the continued, is that when someone comes in and pleads not guilty?
No,
A trial, well, if it's continued, a lot of times these are continued because they have to get a public defender. If it's a trial, when they have to get a public defender, the lawyer wasn't able to be there, so he's like, hey, I haven't had time to get all my case stuff together. Sometimes Jason will he doesn't have his reports back. He doesn't have for the DWIs and all of that stuff, he doesn't have everything that he needs, and he'll have to continue it so that he can continue to build his case.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Tracy?
Okay, thank you.
Looks nice down here, Tracy. Chief Nelson?
Chief Myers asked me not to say very much tonight, so I'm going to say everything I can say.
Now.
Keep talking.
We're waiting on Clay to come.
I have a couple of things to cover, but first off, we had 423 calls for service and 150 citations this month, 103 warnings with 36 warrant arrests, and 9 arrests. I was a little shocked. We had 56 reports, which for us is up quite a bit. We received 2 somewhat, I don't know what you'd call them, complaints on Facebook, and I want to kind of go over that. One of the complaints was about that we were harassing or stopping young people. So I went back and I looked at the stats. I looked at the stats for this last month, and I looked at the stats for the last 3 years. What I found all time, we have wrote 6,596 citations over 3 years. Of those citations, we wrote 177 17-year-olds. That is 2.68% of the total citations. If you look at it that way, 39-year-olds have received 178 citations. So they're higher than our juveniles. Last month, we had 11 citations written to juveniles. 7 of those were traffic citations, which puts us at 2.3% to start this year. So I don't think that's a very valid complaint. The other one was about that we received was about a stray dog that had killed some chickens. That post went on and on, and they continued to talk about why didn't the police do anything. So we reached out to her personally and sent her a message and said, hey, what's your address? So we can help you find out who the dogs belong to. I believe it was Saturday or Sunday? Sunday, we finally got an email back with a very short email back to Winslow. So that wasn't us. She lives in Winslow. So that was another deal we had dealt with.
And so just so the council is aware, the PD, they're aware of all the Facebook stuff, and they typically, if not every incident, the PD does reach out to those people who are making complaints tries to talk to them, get a better understanding of exactly what the perception is and to shed a little light on it.
You know, as a police department, I never want to get into any type of personal one-on-one cases with, publicly. We do try and reach out to them personally and say, hey, if there's a problem, come talk to us. A lot of people will post it on Facebook, but then they don't want to come in and actually discuss the problem. So we have tried to reach out to those people and kind of discuss what's going on and how we can help them, if we can. We can't do anything in Winslow. Another one, Tyler Underwood, you've been with us for 3 years now?
2.5.
2.5 years. He's our canine officer, was our canine officer. He is going to be the new Greenland SRO. He's taken that position. He just couldn't turn out, told me he couldn't turn up Monday through Friday with weekends off. Said it'd be a lot easier with his wife and things like that. We have hired Casey Autry, he comes from Johnson. He's got 10 years experience. He is canine certified. He's SRO certified. And I think more than anything, Rick and I were talking and we kind of made a swap. He kind of wanted him at first and then they decided he liked his personality for the school, which with his memes or whatever they're called, memes and all that, he'll be real good in the school. But we hate to see him leave, but if it's good for his family and good for what he's looking for. Now, he's talked about donating a dog to us.
If meeting the new person, I'd have to make sure the personality fits with Chloe.
Yeah.
To be sure beforehand, so I don't want to make a decision tonight saying
Right.
yes, but it is a possibility, yes.
So we may still have Chloe, we'll just have to see if it works out, the situation works.
So Tyler, I hate that we're losing. I really do. And but I would also say that I would encourage you in any way. So if this is better for you, then I support you 100%. And I do want to thank you, though. You've brought a canine unit to West Fork, something that we never dreamed. I never dreamed West Fork would have. Your work on social media and the media in general has that's not something that either I or the chief are going to ever excel at. And I think people across the city have looked forward to your road reports when we have inclement weather. Yeah. So you really have meant a lot to this community. You've brought a lot to our police department, and I hate to lose you, but
Now he has talked to me about staying on part-time.
That's good.
Doing some stuff, and I don't know, maybe if he wants to still do cold post reports.
well, you'll just be up the road in Greenland, so maybe you can come down and give a report on some of West Fork streets. And I know my wife gets up and it's snowing outside. She's like, well, I got to see if Tyler's reporting that. So, but you brought a lot of professionalism to the West Fork PD, and I do appreciate it. Hope you stay in touch. Tyler also. So right after I just barely met Tyler, and he explained to me through a joke that I was the butt of what a meme is. And he gave me an award for a meme, and when I read it, I said memey because I'd never heard of a meme. So you've brought me a long way as well, Tyler. I appreciate it. Any questions for Tyler or the chief?
Good luck. Congratulations, you've been missed though.
Yes, you
We'll
will.
drag him around.
Yeah.
All right, Public Works, Isaac Carterson.
I don't have much other than what's in there from our minutes from our January 22nd meeting. We did manage to replace some sewer main down here on McKnight. We just chopped right through the mud and got it in. And now we got to pour a couple manholes and can't get a truck back there. So we are going to start another line laying replacement on Colt next week. So we'll be up there tearing up that street as well. I'm I'm gonna let Nick give you an update on the sewer line project. If y'all have any questions for me, I'll answer any of them, but other than what's in the packet, I don't have a whole lot, other than sewer.
Any questions for Isaac?
Where's our water loss at?
32%.
32%. We're still struggling with some SCADA issues on the tank.
So Isaac, while you are here, and I don't know, maybe Chad was planning on talking about it, but you probably won't talk as long. So one of our issues with these tanks, and it is contributing to our water loss, is our tank is not communicating properly.
Yes.
So it has a cell phone receiver on it. We don't have good service at that tower. And someone has came into the city from that service, Verizon, looking to put a tower, a small tower, in West Fork. And so they've looked at 3 sites, is what they've kind of got it narrowed down to.
I
4.
think is what they submitted to Verizon.
And one of those is at the park. So anyone who has a Verizon cell phone, that will help your service in town, but it will also help Isaac tremendously with.
So the way the guy explained it to me is Verizon's main concern was the I-49 or 549 corridor. They take care of the interstate. So some of the small towns don't get the reception like some of the bigger ones do. So that's why they're looking at coming into some of these little small communities and putting a booster tower in to boost the signal.
So that they're wanting it down along the river so that it stays down in the valley,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Is that the new 5G they're talking about?
I think this is just straight service,
Yeah.
just so they can have service.
Going to do anything with the tower they lost, the equipment that went down?
Well, it serves pretty much the interstate corridors, is the way he explained it to me. Because we should have 4G at our tank site, and we can't even get 4G there. And it sets on, it sets up here at Tower Street on the interstate, so we can't even get 4G there. It's running off 3G right now, which is, at the end of this year, obsolete, so,
So no communication if they don't do something
yes.
at
Yeah.
all, not even fake.
Yeah, so we are struggling with that. It fails to communicate and don't shut the valve off or don't turn it on or something, so they did get me now where I can turn it on and off from my phone, so I can slow it down from overflowing when it does alarm, so that is beneficial. Saves me jumping up out of bed and wanting to shut the valve off, so.
Do they have any type of a time frame on if they can put a tower in, when it would be?
They're wanting to move pretty quick, so if they can get one of their sites approved, then they were wanting to move on it pretty quick. The other 3 sites were residential areas that would have to apply for a conditional use, so they'll have to go through those avenues. So,
Anything else for Isaac?
but no, water loss is, it's still and we found a couple more breaks too, so I'm hoping it goes back down. And I hadn't had near as many tank overflows this last month, so. But I'll let Nick give you an update on the sewer main and the plant.
Howdy. On the sewer main project, progress going good. Some numbers for y'all. Through the end of January, we've got about 6,000 feet of the force main installed, but then it's the pressure line going up to Fayetteville, so that's about a little over a quarter of the total length that we've got to put in for that. On the 15-inch gravity line, we've got about 5,000 foot in the ground, so that's a little over a third of the distance from the pump station coming back to West Fork. We've dug the big hole for the lift station. We have a foundation now. They poured it last week and are building the walls now, doing all the steel. Not sure exactly when they're going to pour the walls. It's going to take them some time to come up. There's a lot of steel in there. We're we're working through that right now, making sure we've got it all right before we pour it. But things are going real well. Overall, we're almost 25% complete on the entire project, so we're on schedule. Despite the weather, contractors working through it. We've done almost all of our, we've done all the, what I'm calling the little bores, where we're drilling under roads and creeks. Got most of those done. We're about to do the White River there in Greenland, and then we've got the big one at the interstate or at Fulbright to do as well. I'm hoping when the weather gets nicer, I'm promising y'all I'd like to get y'all some video and some pictures of the flyover on the project so you can see what's going on. Right now it's kind of a mess out there, and we're trying to keep things clean, keep things tidy. The contractor's been doing a good job. We had a little hiccup in Greenland a couple weeks ago, but we addressed it quickly before it got spiraled out and fingers started getting pointed around. So anyways, that's going well. Do y'all have any questions on the sewer project? Okay. Also on the wastewater plant, beginning of this year we got the pond done. The clean out was done in December. We put it back into operation. So far the effluent limits are looking really good on the coliform levels. The one that put us under the public health advisory last year, we've been within permit, very well within permit. So we have been doing weekly reports to the state on that, weekly sampling. We've put in a request for them to reevaluate that because we're in permit. We've been in permit actually since October on those levels. So they're evaluating, and we're going to see if we can reduce the frequency of the sampling and maybe even with that advisory as well. So I submitted that to them last week, and they said they were going to discuss and get back to us. So things are looking good for the plant. We're going to try to keep them that way for the next 9-10 months so we can get it decommissioned. So you have any questions on that part? All right.
Sounds like y'all doing a great job.
Things are going good.
Busy, huh?
It's busy. It's going good. I like it. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. So before we move into parks, I do want to point out to the council, just to let you guys know that, I think it's monthly, Christy, that people are still realizing that sewer bills have went up. And so Christy and Amanda are still getting calls on that. I feel like the city has done just about all we can do to get the word out. We've been talking about that for over 3 years that they were going up. And we've had 2 rate increases, and people are still, each month realizing, oh, my sewer bill is higher than my water bill now. And so just wanted you guys to be aware of that Christy and Amanda are still getting some calls. There's still some stuff on Facebook every now and then. People are upset over it. So anyway, Chad, can you give us the parks report?
Just one more thing on the cell tower. The area that we're looking at possibly put it is at Carter Park, and I just want to assure you it's in an area that won't be intrusive to the park or affect any activities down there or anything like that. So I think it would be a good area for it, and it would help Isaac especially, because I know firsthand of the trouble he goes through with that. So I don't have a lot to report other than it's been raining, and we have not got much headway on our disc golf course. The signs are ready to be installed, but we just haven't been able to get in there and do that because of the weather, and we haven't been able to do some of the cleanup and some of the other items, but we're still working on that. And same with the ball fields. We are preparing for the season, but haven't been able to do much as far as the fields are concerned. So we have, you brought up and asked about the walking trail / bicycle trail, and we are looking, as I told you the last meeting, at putting one of those at Carter Park as well, and we've got a couple options on some grant opportunities to help fund that we're going to apply for coming up real soon as well.
So what Chad is talking about there is Shannon did a great job of filming me on Facebook Live, as good as anyone can do. But in talking about that, I got a little carried away I called Riverside Park, Carter Park, and had misdescribed where Chad was planning on putting this latest design of the trail. Chad was nice enough to explain all that to me as soon as I finished Facebook Live. So, anyway.
And we are,
Yeah, I wish you would have came on in.
the trail we want to put in will accommodate, that's what we want to do is
Yeah.
accommodate bicycles as well, give them a place to ride. Because as we've discussed many times, the sidewalks at Riverside are just not good for both. So we are working on that. I will say, I've had the privilege of sitting in some meetings with Sandy where she's done some presentations on the bank restoration, and it's really incredible what they do. I've seen some of the areas that they have restored, and I just want to throw that out there, that it's pretty impressive. And then one last thing is, I don't know if y'all noticed out here, there's a new wooden fence. We also installed one at the community center. We finished from the ball field. I want to thank Joe. Joe volunteered a lot of labor to get that done. The city bought the materials, and Joe did all the labor on it. So I want to be sure and thank him for that. It made both areas look a lot better. So
Thanks, Joe.
if y'all haven't got a chance to see the one at the community center, it really looks good. We'll get them, need to cure a little bit, then we'll get them sprayed as well to match the fence that's there. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions for Chad?
How's it looking for goal signups?
They're about on the same schedule. We're probably a third of the way with 10 days left, so it's about on par. We'll get most of them last few days, and even more the next week after the deadline is usually over. So yeah, we've got a little over, I think we ended today with about 84 kids signed up, and we'll usually wind up in the 260 range, somewhere in that. So.
And the coaches for that?
We should. It's too early to tell because those all are not in as well. And you don't know how many teams you're going to line up yet as far as, how it shakes out. But I'm sure that if not, I'll go out and find some. So. Anything else? Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So real quick, before we get to Chief Myers, I want to ask Isaac a question. I went to the middle school this past week for Appreciation Day, and while I was there, the sweetest little girl you've ever seen in your life informed me that her mother was very upset about the sidewalk on Robinson. And then went on a little bit further to tell me just exactly how mad she was about the sidewalk on Robinson. So I assured her, and Isaac has assured me, I don't know if you guys have driven Robinson since they've started that sidewalk. It does look tight. It's not. So Robinson was at its widest point 26 feet or something.
Yeah.
But at its narrowest point, it's going to be 18 feet. Is that correct?
18.
So more than adequate for two vehicles to pass. So.
Mayor, I want to, Joe got his props for the fence. I want to make sure that our other council member that come down and helped me lay some pipe the other day gets his recognition. Mr. Collins spent half.
It wasn't Don, don't look at Don.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All right, Chief.
Don't feel bad, Mayor, we've all been part of Collar's memes. Sometime or another, so, really don't know where to start. We've been really busy. You can tell the more we're up from calls from last year, and it's continued this month again. So I think we had 3 house fires in 4 days last week. So 2 of those were with mutual aid, helping our neighbors. And in the middle of all of that, we've been trying to sneak in pump testing, having that done, maintenance on some of the other vehicles, oil changes and things like that. So it's been really busy. Really, the only thing I've got to say is to push for the tax for March the 3rd. Very critical that goes through, because if it doesn't go through, we still got to do it. We don't have a choice. So we definitely need all the support we can get for the people to come out and vote for that. Taxpayers are gonna pay for it one way or the other, so this tax, it's only for a year. I don't wanna do taxes anymore than anybody else, but, I can buckle down for a year, because it's something very well needed in the county, so, really other than that, Mayor's all I got.
Any questions for Chief Myers?
It's not gonna increase taxes, right? It's
No, it will be an increase in tax. They're looking for a 1/4%, or 1 cent. And it'll be for 1 year. And again, I don't want it any more than anybody else. But if not, I mean, police, fire, EMS, and they're gonna do it regardless. It has to be done. Because the system we have is 15 years old. They don't make parts for it anymore. Can't do service upgrades. So, and it'll boost the ones that are already on the system, Game and Fish, State Police, people like that. It's gonna help them too, because they're gonna have to put more towers in. It'll help their communications as well, so.
Any other questions for Chief Myers? Thank you, sir. Christie?
So I don't know if anybody else noticed my typo, but as I was just sitting here looking at it, the way that my bank balances show, looks like we've lost $1.6 million. That is not the case. That is just our bank balances, so. The budgets are what I would expect for this time of year. There are a lot of expenses that we pay heavy on at the first of the year, so nothing unusual about those. On the water report, I will point out that I've kind of added a line at the bottom. Our bank balances actually are in the $650,000, but part of that is restricted funds. So the city of Fayetteville has paid us their full share of the cost share for the sewer project. That's at $256,000 down there. So I've kept that separate from the actual bank balances so that there's not confusion that we have more money in there that's expendable. We did make our first payment to them today on that, so that you'll see that number decreasing as the sewer project finishes. Any questions?
So Christie and Tracy did host.
Someone's gonna ask me a question?
No, you can sit down. So Christie and Tracy, and Chief Nelson was there as well, hosted a vendor the other day that was talking to us about digital document storage, which is something I would really like to see the city start moving toward. Are we there yet? It's pretty expensive. But I think it is the direction that we will see us begin to go. The quote they gave us was high. I don't know that we're ready for it right now, but they did offer to let us borrow the system for 30 days so that we can try it out, see if we like it. But it's a company that specializes in municipalities, so they have several other cities that they deal with. It not only does it get us out of 35 file cabinets taking up room, but it also would allow Christie, and I'll speak to Christie in particular, but she could put stuff, if someone Freedom of Information request, she could put it in a portal, that they could just log on and download all that stuff themselves. It has the potential to save Christie some time in some areas. Obviously in the beginning it's probably going to take more time until she gets familiar with it, but just keep that in mind. We have looked at it. I think they are the company that we would go with. I don't know that anyone else has these capabilities, but part of what it does, so once something goes into this, it's cloud storage, right? It's a digital document, but their software takes that document and makes it so that it can't be altered. And that's the real key for document retention. The state has requirements, especially for like Tracy and the girls in the court. The state says you have to hold this document for a certain period of time. And so for a digital company to come in and do that, they have to be able to lock that document down so that it can't be changed. And so this company has the technology to do that. And I just want to give you a heads up. You'll probably hear some more about it as we move into that August, September, October area. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, talk to Christy or Tracy. I wouldn't recommend talking to Chief Nelson about it. I didn't think he was paying attention to me. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Christy, did I leave anything out on that?
No, the only other thing I was thinking is one of the big advantages to that are our permit documents, like our ordinances. Just for example, if we have a fire, we don't have any backup on those. A lot of our software stuff we have backup on, but permit documents, employee, files that from years ago and that kind of stuff. Right now, we wouldn't have any way to recover those if we had a major emergency. So that would be a huge advantage to have that stuff done digitally also.
So to rent a space in a certain farm somewhere, that's an annual contract with the numbers they shared with you already, or?
Yeah, so I'll try not to get too in-depth on it, but you can get two different models of it. You can get a cloud-based model where basically they log in and they're working on a website, right, essentially. The other option is it's actually on our server, but it still backs up to them. With the way the city is positioned with servers and we're tied in with the court, and the court has their own server, and there's some separations there. For us, the web model is probably going to be the best option. If we went with the server model, we would have to buy a separate system for the courts, a separate system for the police department, a separate system for admin, so.
It's easier to log in on the
Yeah.
board.
Probably cheaper too.
Actually, it was,
Overall.
yeah. So, anyway, if you have any other questions, do you still have some of that material up there? So, Tracy and Chrissy both have some of the information that the guy left with us, if you guys want to look into it a little bit more. Okay. So, next item up, we have some old business. Last month, and I cannot remember her name, Carol Martin, came and addressed the council during the public public forum, and asked about the issue of her neighbor feeding deer and the, I guess, infestation of deer up in Valley View. So, Clay Hungate, Arkansas Game and Fish, has offered to come down and give us a little update on that situation and what the Game and Fish Commission's ideas are and where they stand.
I would call it an infestation, more of a city deer.
Okay?
You'll take questions too, won't you, sir?
I went and spoke with the complainant.
Oh, you did?
Well, I did not speak with the complainant. I spoke with the other complainant.
Okay.
She wasn't home, but I did make contact with the other complainant. His biggest concern was the population of deer that we have. There's not going to be anything that we can do. We can do rural or urban deer hunts. Basically, our houses are too close to allow anybody to come in and shoot deer. We're not going to relocate the deer. I mean, that's basically just, they're here. He didn't have too big of a
boat, can they?
We have some places that can, but I think the places that we can isn't in the areas that the people are, and he counted 9 deer. That was his number. So certainly I live right next door to, or close to them, so we do have deer up there.
Mhm.
But he pointed to me for the lady that was feeding the deer. She basically lost her husband recently, and that's just what they did together. I explained to her our state laws for baiting, which prohibits it outside of a hunting season. They can put it out during September 1st to December 31st. Fayetteville's dealing with an issue right now on creating ordinances. Well, they already have an ordinance in place that states hunting. They're going to add in some baiting verbiage in that, which would be good for you guys to do also, to keep them for those 5 months that they can put the deer bait out there. They're not hunting them. That lady was just watching them. But by putting that in there, that closes the entire 12 months out of the year that they can't bait. Y'all can call me anytime you want to up until September 1st, and I'll go deal with it. That's my job. It is a state law. By adding a city ordinance to say that you can't hunt with those verbiage in it, including baiting. That basically allows the police officers to go and write a citation for a city ordinance violation where you guys get the money.
Okay. And so, after your conversation, were they satisfied?
So the complainants, like I said, I didn't get to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
what was her name? Ms. Martin. I didn't get to talk to Ms. Martin. I did have to wade through all her bird seed and squirrel food that she had out there. But y'all have in your package, our state law, and it does say that they can squirrel feed and bird feed too. But I didn't get a chance to talk to her, still haven't got a chance to talk to her. He was perfectly fine. He had plenty of fencing around his garden to where the deer wasn't bothering his garden or his neighbor's garden. But other than that.
And the lady who was feeding the deer,
The lady that was feeding was a little upset. She just recently lost her husband. I basically told her she couldn't do it. So, and she was in violation. I didn't write a citation on it. Right now, we're in the early stages, as in Washington County's been added to the CWD zone, which is a chronic wasting disease. I knew he was gonna ask. Anyway, we're just educating people right now this first couple years. We don't want to just go out and write. Again, she's not baiting to hunt.
Right.
She's baiting to watch the deer. And part of the CWD regulations on baiting is it's attracting large numbers of deer to one spot. And in that one spot's where they're spreading that disease faster. So that's what we're trying to prevent. With that being said, I educated her and I don't know if she's finishing her bag of corn or what. I heard there might have been another complaint, but I hadn't had a chance to visit with her.
Okay.
So we can't feed them at all up there?
September 1st. I think the best option is to create a city ordinance or add to your discharge of a deadly weapon hunting, including baiting. When you do that, you'll need to look at my statute to protect your public works guys who's doing nuisance trapping for your beaver at the river, or skunks under houses or whatever else they're doing to cover you guys. Your city attorney will know a lot about that. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Clay?
How long have you been? No.
Thank you.
Y'all know where I'm at.
Thank you for reaching out to them and coming down to educate us tonight. So now we'll move into our new business. Item 1 is our resolution for the stream restoration easement agreement that Sandy was discussing earlier. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, this is down at Dye Creek, down at the bridge of Dye Creek. Last year we made the news because of our discharge line was uncovered due to erosion, and so this is the area that we're talking about for the easement. It's that same area just north of Dye Creek Bridge. Do we have any discussion concerning doing a resolution for that easement agreement?
Why wouldn't we want to get it better? That's my question. I mean, they're gonna make it better and prettier.
I make a motion, we pass it.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2020-03. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Item 2, approve a contract with the foundation specialist for $14,000 to install piers at the library. Sandy, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
And so before we take any action on that, I would ask Joe to give us a little bit of an update. Joe has helped out a lot down at the library.
So the good news is the building didn't have to be torn down. And that's facetious, that's a jibe at the contractor. The work's installed, the floor is stabilized, the piers are in, and little under 100 foot of stem wall is poured. And as Isaac can tell you, he's been down there probably more than I have. Are they done with the floor?
Just about. They didn't show up today, or they've been finished about framing.
So the walls we're getting ready to have a floor in there, and the walls are getting ready to go in, and obviously activities resume. So it was less drastic than the project manager for the construction company figured it was. And it's fairly commonplace, and it all fell within the confines of the money and contingencies that we had.
Sort of, we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
Oh, well, I said nothing. So it's resumed. They're back on track to complete it. It shouldn't be too much longer for the library as a whole.
And so just to bring the council up to speed, our construction manager that we have, he worked on this project, he worked on that project, and we've had some issues. Just to put it plain for you guys, we've gotten quotes, and then we've gotten another quote for this item that wasn't on the original quote. So we've had a little bit of issue there. We've talked to him a couple of times. Christy has a couple of times sent me emails where I can just see hair coming out of her head as she's pulling it out. But we are almost finished with these construction projects, and we will all be glad when we are. I'm very thankful that Joe has stepped in and started reviewing. Basically, Joe has been reviewing some of these quotes for these change orders at the library to try to make sure that everything that is needed is being quoted. We are starting to get tight on money. The problem is we're not sure how tight. To give you an example, Christy got some invoices this past week that were dated back to October. So that makes it very hard for her to keep up with where we are in the budget when all of a sudden she's getting an invoice from that far back. So just want the council to be aware of where we are. We're this close to being finished with that. But Joe has been a huge help in trying to get some more specifics out of our construction manager. So, with that being said, can we take some action on approving this contract for the foundation? So they've ripped that floor out of the library and they're building it back. We knew that was going to be an issue before the construction ever started down there. What we didn't realize is how big the issue was going to be. It has gotten a little bigger than what we anticipated. So.
Well, very, very briefly, the subtext is, like a lot of old houses around here, it had a rock foundation, and it's an old house. It simply wasn't standing up to the weight. It's a single-story building and had degraded. And it just needed to be repaired before the new stuff got put in.
Gotta do it now. It's cheaper now than it would be later.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries.
Next three ordinances, we have one motion to suspend rules for all three.
Yes. So next we have 3 ordinances coming up on our agenda. Could we get a motion to suspend the rules and read all 3 of those
Second.
by title only? Okay. So we have a motion and second. All those in favor say yes.
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 Those opposed, no.
What do you mean, Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Okay. So that brings us to item 3, which is ordinance 493. Mr. Kickback, would you do us the honors of reading those?
I sure will. I think it's an ordinance to amend the current fireworks ordinance.
Yes.
And the whole title is the ordinance to amend Westport Code, Chapter 7.32 regarding fireworks in the city of Westport. So you can entertain a motion to pass or have
I'll make that
discussion?
motion. I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 493. Do we need to do a roll call on those? Misty Cottle?
Yes.
Jeff Upton?
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton?
Yes.
John Collins?
Yes.
Kira Hungate? Don Rollins?
Yes.
Joe Tower?
Yes.
Dina McKnight?
Yes.
That motion carries. And if we could we get that typo in the title? Yeah.
The E. The
You have-
fireworks has 2 W's instead of 1 E.
All right, next, item 4 is ordinance 494.
Mayor, that one is an ordinance prohibiting possession of tobacco, vapor, alternative nicotine, and e-liquid products for implements by minors, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Do we have any discussion concerning ordinance 494? Any questions about that? Why?
Why emergency?
I was gonna ask that same thing. I was gonna ask the chief if he needed an emergency. If he does, it's just a separate vote, we can do it, but I put them on both because they were drafted with emergency, so.
Our biggest thing is the school has taken a no tolerance policy. They've now changed the law to 21 years old, and it has been a big problem at our school. We're trying to set that, to get that to put it as a city ordinance so we can start taking action on that immediately.
We would go ahead and, if you get it passed, then we would take a separate vote on the emergency clause.
I'll make a motion to pass.
I second.
So we have a motion and second to pass ordinance 494. Take a vote on that. Misty Cottle?
Yes.
Jeff Upton?
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton?
Yes.
John Collins?
Yes.
Kira Hungate? Don Rollins?
Yes.
Joe Tower?
Yes.
Dina McKnight?
Yes.
That motion passes.
And Mayor, you entertain a motion and a second on the emergency
I'll make a
clause.
motion to pass the emergency.
Second.
So we have a motion and second to pass the emergency clause
Also,
on
roll call, yes.
ordinance 494. Misty Cottle?
Yes.
Jeff Upton?
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton?
Yes.
John Collins?
Yes.
Kira Hungate? Don Rollins?
Yes.
Joe Tower?
Yes.
Dina McKnight? And that motion carries.
The next one, Mayor, is an ordinance prohibiting persons from possessing, smoking, or otherwise engaging in medical use of marijuana in violation of the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Amendment 2016, declaring an emergency for the purposes. Again, this is a thing the chief wants, and if you anticipate the same question about the emergency, I'd ask you.
I'd say this again, this is coming up with the new medical marijuana. This ordinance would keep it out of our city park, which is gonna be coming up pretty soon. I know you guys have read over it, but we need something, I feel we need something in place, a lot of the cities are going to that, we need something in place that again, it's an ordinance that we can take action on. If not, then we're real limited, been to several of the classes and it's
She'll take care of all.
yeah, it's kind of way beyond what they're gonna do, but as a city, this would give us a foundation on what we wanna do or what we don't wanna do. You know, if we want them out, you know, at our park smoking medical marijuana, or if we don't, we need to get passed.
So a motion and second. I would also point out that one of the provisions in this is that it limits it to, if you can't smoke cigarettes there, you can't smoke medical marijuana there as well, so.
You can smoke cigarettes in the parking lot though, right? Is that gonna make them think they can do that as well in the parking lot?
Well, I think this says that you can't smoke anywhere on.
Anywhere,
Yeah.
right. That's right. Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Misty Cottle?
Yes.
Jeff Upton?
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton?
Yes.
John Collins?
Yes.
Kira Hungate? Don Rollins?
Yes.
Joe Tower?
Yes.
Dina McKnight?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. So item 6 are a list of change orders. Do you guys have that list of change orders in front of you?
Yeah, they do.
We need to do a vote on that emergency clause.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I understand the school one for sure, I don't know if this is something that you're facing right now, chief, or?
Yep.
All
I'll
right.
make a motion, we pass the emergency clause.
Second.
we have a motion and a second on that. Misty Cottle?
Yes.
Jeff Upton?
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton?
Yes.
John Collins?
Yes.
Kira Hungate? Don Rollins?
Yes.
Joe Tower?
Yes.
Dina McKnight?
Yes.
Okay, emergency clause does pass. Thank you, Christie. Item 6, change orders. So we have one change order for the court. That was to add some acoustical ceiling in a mechanical room. If you guys will notice, there's a couple stained ceiling tiles in here. We don't have a roof leak, we don't think. It looks like it is a condensation problem. So we have a mechanical closet that does not have a ceiling in it. And it's getting warm air up into a cold ceiling, it's condensating, and Tracy has likened it to someone running across the ceiling. Isn't that what you said? So I guess it's loud in here when that condensate is falling. And so the idea is to put a ceiling in that room and keep that warm air out and see if that will fix it. If that doesn't, they have another possible solution that we'll address at a later time. Let's go ahead and let's just do them all, yeah. So that's the court. At the library, we have some masonry to remove and rebuild an existing masonry at the northwest corner, some structural framing, and some insulation and drywall. Do we have any questions concerning those 4 change orders? Do we have a motion concerning those 4 change orders?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That carries. And finally, a budget adjustment to approve up to $10,000 for structure repairs at the library paid out of the library building fund savings account. So Christy, you want to talk about this just a little bit?
So there was a building fund savings account set up for the library quite a few years ago when Miss Redfern passed away. She was a long-time librarian here. And the libraries just continued to build on that. At this point in construction, we haven't touched any of that money. But this additional $10,000 is going to be for reinforcing the trusses in the ceiling. We are doing that separately from Baldwin and Shell, and it most likely will not be $10,000. We are going to we're going to buy the materials ourselves and pay for labor, but it will not exceed $10,000. So that's what we're asking for, and this is a budget adjustment to use money out of that bank account to do that.
And we've tried to leave that bank account alone. Shannon and the library board have a lot of plans for that account. Paving, new fixtures. I mean, there's a lot of things they could do with that out of a building fund account. We've tried to leave it alone, but we have also tried to keep it as a reserve until we knew what we were going to get into with the library.
The library board has not approved this. I don't know that they need to officially approve it, but they are aware that there is a possibility once we got all the numbers in that we would be asking for some of that money. So they meet a week from now, but the main approval needs to come from you guys to actually be able to spend the money.
So make a motion to approve it.
Second.
We have a motion second. Is there any discussion on that before we move forward? Okay.
And just say a little bit more on the budget
Sure.
for the library. He's kind of touched on the fact that we're not 100% sure. I sent out the email to all of you guys of what the estimates were. We're looking at about $53,000 over the original budget. That doesn't take into account that we did put some money in the budget because we were expecting some problems. We just didn't know exactly what. I'm 50% confident that we have enough money in the budget to cover everything. Hopefully after this month, we get into the next meeting, we will be completely done paying for this building. We're 30 days out. I still don't have all those invoices, so I feel like I will be much more confident next month in knowing if we're going to have up some additional money for the libraries, right, to finish the libraries.
At this point, we're kind of where we're at.
We just got to get it done.
Gotta get finished.
And I will say that we have had several hiccups, but for a project that was voted on, approved by the citizens of Westport 3.5 years ago, a lot of you guys were on the council back when we took that vote, increased taxes. At that time, we were dealing with an estimate, right? We're 3.5, 4 years down the road, and we're a little over budget here, a little over budget there. All in all, whoever did those estimates did a pretty good job. I'm happy with it. I will be glad when we get finished with it. But okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve that $10,000
Yes.
transfer. Okay. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. So that brings us to the end of our agenda. Mayor's comments. I don't have a lot this month. Everything's going well. Our Facebook Live is doing good. We had a lot of views on that. We got up over 1,000. I don't know where it ended up at. So even with me fumbling through and calling parks the wrong name, streets the wrong name, I think it's taken off. I think people are enjoying looking at it, some, if for nothing else, so that they can poke fun at the mayor. But we'll continue that. If anyone does want to participate, you're more than welcome to. Other than that, the city's running good. A lot of good things are happening.
Lots of change.
There's a lot of change right now. Christy, how far out are we for the next sewer rate increase? Yes. We're getting close.
Either April or May.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact date.
So just be aware of that. That'll be our third increase. That's getting us up to $17 or $21 on that minimum bill. So it's going to be heavy. I will tell you that we're still those payments are expensive that we're going to be paying to pay that bond off, and the payments we're paying to Fayetteville to treat our sewage. And Christy and I kind of looked at the numbers a month ago, and we're still a long ways from being there. So that being said, Isaac's having a hard time getting me some good sewer plant numbers, what we're treating. We know he's making repairs. We know we're slowing down that I&I, but with the amount of rain, with it raining every other day, the plant is, it's not showing any of those improvements. So we know they're there. We just can't quantify what those improvements are yet. So
Okay.
anyway, that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. I hope so.